Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining. I'm Natasha Metcalf, the co-founder and chair of LDUK, and I'd now like to introduce tonight's special guest. So a big welcome to Sarah Grace, who has facilitated a session before, but thank you so much for coming back and joining us. So Sarah Grace is a self-employed psychotherapist who runs a private practice and is also a Lyme disease patient herself, so it gives her plenty of empathy and first-hand knowledge of what we're all going through. She joins us once again to further discuss her strategy for coping with Lyme, particularly focusing on ways to improve our everyday lives. Today she'll remind us of her health journey and offer the opportunity to share those feelings we often hide while managing this chronic health issue. As a psychotherapist, she has found her way through Lyme disease, a journey that felt like a brutal attack for her with no one to turn to. Sarah fought every day to survive, feeling that she could no longer trust her own body, yet remained determined to come through this horrendous fight. Even though she was stuck in survival mode, she still believed it was possible to thrive again and learn to keep her smile. A smile became her way through. She created a strategy, and today she'll continue to discuss this with you. Sarah is the author of Journey with Grace and its companion journal, Journal with Grace. In addition, she's a publisher running Sarah Grace Publishing, which promotes accessible, dyslexia-friendly reading for children and adults. Sarah has embraced her own journey in counselling and coaching to work closely with clients, helping them to lead a more fulfilling life. She gently guides clients on their emotional and often frustrating journey of recovery and relapse. She appreciates the many challenges life provides, having gone through exactly the same process, and empathises with the many hurdles this disease throws their way. Sarah is a proud mother of two and a blessed grandmother of two young ones. She is a lover of all animals, especially hedgehogs, who she rehabilitates, and her two cats, and enjoys nature, swimming, and travel when her health allows. We join Sarah as she reflects on her journey and achievements and learn more about her passions for helping others. If you'd like to work with Sarah or purchase her books, please contact her via one of her websites. It's sarahmgrace.co.uk and sarahgracepublishing.co.uk. So a huge warm welcome, Sarah. Thank you so much for joining us again. And I'll hand over to you.
Thank you. Really appreciate the introductions. Welcome back to anyone who's heard me on my first talk, which was Journey with a Smile. So I added continue to smile because I just thought it's really good to recap where we've already been, and appreciating that there's quite a lot to take in as well. And when we are challenged, I think we can only take in so much at a time. So I kind of do like to recap, but I'll be adding that to, at the end, I'll be adding more to what I've been learning as well. I never stop learning, partly from clients, but also just from my own experience of pushing on. And so I'll start with my original contact with the wonderful ladies at LDUK. So as I said last time, if anyone was here, that I felt like I was doing really well, having recovered from Lyme, and I was kind of having conversations with people saying I've recovered from Lyme, I had Lyme, and then people were like, oh, can you recover from Lyme? And I thought that's a really good question, because I felt like I was doing really good. I had to have surgery last year to have my tonsils removed for the second time. They actually grew back, which it's been a question of whether that was because of Lyme, because it's such an unusual thing to happen. Also had a stone in on the left side, which again is pretty unusual. So I was sort of asking the consultant, how rare am I? And I already knew I was, because of all the situations I've gone through in my life. But and he was like, yeah, I've not seen this before. So I put a lot of what I've gone through down to Lyme, but we're quite often left wondering, aren't we? So with all of what was going on, I thought, yeah, I'm going to just sort of check out from the Lyme disease UK people now, because I think I'm all done. And talking with the ladies, and especially Jo, she was like, actually, I think you're living maybe at 80%, and it's made me come back and look at my own strategy. So I started to write the strategy down of what I'd actually done. I journal in my own journals, Journey with Grace. So I write in there how I survived, and I look back and thought, yeah, I really did have a strategy. So this is what I wanted to share with you. So my story behind, I walked through long grass at a music festival in Sussex, and I was a bit nervous about it because I hadn't got the right shoe wear. I hadn't been planning to stay out for a whole day and an evening, and I was coming back at night. And so there was an awareness of me that there was something not good about this, but I actually knew nothing about Lyme. The next day I woke up and I was just so ill, and I was so cross that I was so ill because I was running my life at 100 miles an hour and really wasn't getting on well. So, and to fall completely flat, feeling so unwell. And it was chest pain, flu-like symptoms. At this point I hadn't noticed a bite, and just I was so cross. Everything was just like flared up. I was in a really bad place. And 4 days in, I was explaining to somebody, and I was just holding my leg, and then I noticed on the back of my ankle, it looked like a huge blister, and like I'd put round a plaster around my whole ankle and then ripped it off really quick. So I had what looked like a blister and a plaster irritation was all exactly on the back of my ankle, was actually the bullseye rash. And it wasn't until I was looking at it thinking, gosh, I look so angry, how come it doesn't hurt? And I was poking it, nothing, didn't feel anything. I thought something very weird about all of this. And pain shooting around my body, and I literally go, my shoulder hurts, then my ankle hurt. And at the time it felt like there was something trapped in my body that was trying to get out. Actually, I think it was my nervous system on being attacked, and so it was going through my nerves. Someone said to me, I think you do need to go straight to hospital. I think you might have Lyme disease. Never heard about Lyme, didn't know what they were talking about, but headed off to the hospital. And I was sat there for hours, and I just felt so ill. And in the end, I just said, look, I'm going to go home. And they're like, no, you got a bite, haven't you? And I went, yeah, but it's just a small thing. I just feel really unwell. I'm going to go home. Like, no, we cannot let you. So at that point, they saw me and gave me 8 days of amoxicillin because I had cellulitis growing up my leg. And I was like, I don't take antibiotics. I've got a stomach issue, not interested in that. And they were like, well, see that cellulitis that's going up your leg? That's going to go through your whole body. I went, okay, give me the antibiotics. I'll take them then. But what it did, it sort of curbed it for 8 days, and then it kicked into absolutely like the second phase. So I was launched very quickly into the horrendous joint pain. I was as stiff as a board, head fog, and all I knew what to do, because I didn't really feel like I was getting support, understand it, was research as best I could with brain fog and terrible neck pain. But I just knew I needed to lay out in sunshine. I just knew I needed vitamin D, and I needed to start listening to my body about what my body needed. So I did end up having a doxycycline, and I did take that for 3 weeks. But already everything had kicked in, so I was still left. It halted things, but I was still left with what I'd already started. So the sort of listening to my body created me a way of coping. I think it put me a little bit back into the power over what was going on, because I completely felt like my body, I didn't trust it anymore. I didn't know what was going on. So I'd sort of think, okay, I started fancying, say, red pepper. I'd eat red pepper, and then I think, well, okay, what's red pepper? And it looks like a heart, so it must be good for my heart. I'd look it up. So it was all like a moment by moment learning and coping. And I was having really bad palpitations. So I knew my heart was under threat, and I had chest pain. So while I was waiting to see a consultant, I was detoxing, I was eating the best I could. The biggest thing I'd wake up in the morning and my face would feel so heavy, and I'd be thinking, I didn't want to get up because it hurt. I wanted to just lay there and feel no pain for a moment if I could. And then I'd move and think, okay, where is it today? Where is it now? And I don't know if people can sort of echo with this of their experience, because I know Lyme is different for everybody, but I'm sure pain comes for everyone. And I'd feel terrified to look in the mirror because my face was feeling like it was so heavy on one side. So my strategy I called smile, because that's what the biggest fear of being online and with clients and not being able to smile and acknowledge people became quite a big thing for me. And just feeling that heaviness in my face meant I could never forget what was happening to me. It was always there. It was like I might have knee pain or shoulder pain, but it wasn't always there, but the heaviness was always there. So my strategy for the beginning of Smile S was really just the surviving. So hopefully you'll get to see some of the bullet points that I've written, but at the moment it was like developing a way just to be able to find a way to smile in the day, because I had this like, if I can keep working my smile, if I can keep working that muscle, maybe I won't lose it. And it was just, again, a very simple thing to do in a day, going, right, okay, something smart. And I'd walk down the street and smile at people on purpose because I got to exercise this. And so that became a very, very small thing. And it kind of helped my mindset. And having a grandbaby, I learned that whatever they go to sleep, also from my own children, but whatever they go to sleep to, they wake up to. So I tried to go to sleep with a smile on my face at night, hoping that I'd wake up feeling the same in the morning. So it was all very small, gentle moments to be able to get myself through to much bigger changes. So then looking at the word smile, the second one is maintaining. What did I need to do that day? I learned so much about myself. I was doing so much in a day that in the end I had to go, right, I'm just going to have one thing in a day. I can only book one thing. And if I achieve that, that's great. So I would go, okay, what is it I need to do today? And having my small thing that I did that was smiling at people added to that. Okay, today it might have even just been like clear out something to go in a charity bag. It could be as small as that. But I started trying to think, okay, how can I, with very little energy and focus on myself, how can I actually give back to other people and trying to get back into work? So I think, okay, what is the small thing I can do for somebody? So sometimes it was just text somebody and see if they were doing okay, even though I couldn't have a phone call. And I noticed over the years, I don't, even like now, I don't envy a phone call. And it was because it would take so much energy. I'd speak with someone, then I'd have to have a sleep. So I could say, okay, what can I do? I can message somebody or I can email somebody. So, or do something where I'm writing a card, which will eventually get in the post. So it was very small, again, things, but they were the things that helped me maintain myself. So what do I need to do today? And it could have been a doctor's appointment or make a doctor's appointment, which even that would take the energy, as we all know how difficult that can be. So staying with that, sort of hoping to come out of the survival more into maintaining, and that was really helpful for me. With my smile, I then started to see how I was using survive, so getting stuck in surviving mode, maintaining, wanting then to move into improving, and that sometimes did take surgery, but sometimes it was more of a finding another way of helping myself, like when I could actually start exercising, making sure that I made that a priority for myself, even if I didn't feel like it. And then if I overdid it, which I think a lot of us will understand as well, this sort of having a bit of energy, doing too much and then feeling like you crash. So managing that as well, and even going, okay, even if I got that wrong, if I did overdo it, rather than beat myself up or feel too low about it, because that so easily happens, I go, okay, I just need to learn. Got to give myself now a couple of days to recover. So I don't know if this relates to how your journey has been, and I do have empathy for you if so, because it's a bit of a slog. But yeah, looking to where we have improved. I think journaling for me was that, I started to see some days it didn't feel like I was improving. Then when I looked back and saw what I had been managing or how I had been feeling, I was improving, and that was really good for me. And then learning off myself or other people. I've learned so much through this charity that even for the last 6 months for me has been a game changer. So always being able to sort of gently learn from ourselves and for others has just been great. And then coming to, for me, important for me because of the job I do with psychotherapy, being able to then find the energy to help other people and to envisage a better way of being, which I found really empowering. And some days I think, gosh, how can I do that? I haven't been great over the weekend. But then it's like, okay, this won't last. I will come back out of this. So things will get better. So I think it really is finding a time of day. For me, it's usually in the morning. By the time, it used to be at night before I had Lyme, and I sort of want to sit and reflect what, kind of a bit like a diary, a little bit of what was good, what I would, want to have taken from the day. Whereas now I sit there, I can sit having it to my bed and think, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. I think partly because it has affected my eyes a bit as well. So I would just advertise really finding that little bit of time in your own day. And it could be, if you have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee mid-morning, it depends on people's lifestyle as well, whether they're working. But if you're at home and just have that quiet time, I feel like that's when things start to process a little bit more and actually start to see the difference of how you're feeling. I actually do quite a lot of journaling workshops. I'm quite happy to do something like that at some point. But I do go into a women's prison and I do journal in there, and it's incredible what it opens up. And some of the women, haven't even managed to ever write their name before. They haven't had an education. So I've got colouring pages of the butterfly through my journal, and we end up just talking and colouring in. And that opens up such a conversation. And then I see, what colour is that? How does that feel? And so I think, having your own moment is great. Even being able to share with somebody and get some words down in the journal, and not necessarily see it as a diary of events, and see it as almost, for me, it's almost like the friend that I can just pick up and lean on. And I don't do it as an everyday thing. I don't have it as I have to do this, and actually if I haven't been doing it for say a week, I'll go, okay, I've obviously had a good week because it wasn't necessarily anything I needed to process. When I started to look at this talk, my mind is buzzing over on a few things. I'll just pinpoint some things down and start to see a bit of a theme. And I think that's what's helpful. And just being able to sort of just even go back a few pages and go, oh gosh, that's, how I was feeling then. Because when we're stuck in the cycle of a chronic illness, I think, it feels like we're not moving, we're not changing, and that the feelings are the same, but actually we are fluctuating more than we realise. So I think that's why it's a really good discipline. I say that lightly, but something there. It's a tool, it's a resource. So, and I must admit, I do find writing on paper and being able to, go back and look at it. I'm not a one who can do it on a phone or a voicemail. I can do that, but I never look back. Whereas on paper, I think, we're kind of more wired to flick a few pages and see where we've been. So I hope that's helpful. When I'm talking about improving, again, it's not anything I want to burden anybody with. It's really just so that we can enjoy our day. And if we're taking our time in the day, and I can remember doing hour by hour, now I am doing day by day, but being able to just sort of enjoy it actually means we are enjoying our life. So rather than life is going to be like this forever and I'm stuck, it's actually finding that moment and enjoyment, in a moment, whether it's a cup of coffee and whether it's reaching out to someone else or getting your feelings down on paper, or you've had a step forward with some other support, medication, or whatever it might be for what you're living with in the day. I always say I do have a faith, and that really helps me. That gives me a hope, and I think that's also gives me a community. I've shared quite a bit about Lyme in my church, and it's hard because I don't think people fully get it, because you quite often look well, and I think that might echo with a number of other people, that when you look well, it's a bit of a hidden illness, which I'm thankful for, because I didn't lose my face. Actually, the surgery I had in my neck was pulling on the facial nerve. So 4 days after having surgery, after 7.5 years of living with this, after 4 days, I started to get a tingling through my face. So this was a trapped nerve and it didn't die, and I just think I'm very thankful for that. So I'm kind of pleased I don't have anything that is majorly showing, because otherwise, it's the contrast then of, oh, what happened to you, to people not seeing. And I don't think there's an either better place. So it's us coping with our day-to-day with having something that, really does affect our lives. So I put it out there, if anybody wants to answer that question, what do you believe would help you improve? Lyme is not easy to navigate, and I think the fact that you're part of this chat and been connected with the Lyme Disease UK charity, these lovely people, I just think it's great that you have that community of reaching out. I think it's the biggest support, to be honest, that you can have. It's such a lonely experience, any chronic illness is, but I think Lyme has its added complication of not being understood. I think we're getting there, things are getting better, but it's still got a long way to go. I also have another rare disease, and I'm on an advisory group for that, which probably no one's heard of. It's called EOE, which is an inflammation of the esophagus. And again, it's an unseen chronic illness. And I have the same conversations with that group as I hear and we have here. And it's that how people can completely not understand and miss you, and even family and friends at time can miss it. So it can be lonely and it can be hard going. So actually having support and staying connected, I think, is important. So having said, I was leaving the face group of LDUK, I'm still here and I'm not going anywhere. So and that's mainly thanks to Joe and Natasha for that one. So yes, with learning, I put a few questions up there, and that's partly, again, we can just think about these questions, or we can actually talk about it. What are we looking for? What are we trying to learn? I had somebody, my own brother, said to me one day, maybe sometimes you just need to stop chasing the dragon or the tiger or whatever his analogy was. And I thought, well, I'm not running around trying to get a diagnosis anymore. I'm actually just trying hard to keep well. So I don't know if that resonates with anybody, but learning and improving doesn't mean we're trying to fight something. It actually means that we're just trying to keep improving, and we still want our life back to the way it was before. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think there is a point of acceptance. I know my body won't be what it was, and I know it's now 8 years, as last month, since I was bitten. So I'm 8 years older. So it's a level of acceptance as well. Wanting to leave you empowered, but not necessarily that you need to find this for yourself right now, unless that's the place you're in. I think maybe it's figuring out at the moment, where you are in the smile, but holding this to inspire you. So and as it's been said already, I work in publishing. So I work with all sorts of different stories, and I have people come to me with their stories of chronic illness. And actually our own story is so unique. None of us here will have the same experience, symptoms, journey, but we're all here because of Lyme. And it's being able to stay with our own story, but actually being able to empower other people as well with being able to keep going. I'm going to go on to the next bit in a minute, but it's also like, who is it that we might need to help us find our way through, and what reason is it that we want to be able to help other people. So obviously I'm doing psychotherapy and publishing. I'm bringing people's stories out, and I'm also helping people with their own stories. Somehow it's two different careers do actually cross over, even though they look like poles apart. But I find it inspiring when I hear other people that have come through some awful situations, and that does empower me. But it's also being able to not be weighed down too much also by my own story or other people's. So this is what I've kind of just been able to sort of work with more recently. I kind of feel like it came from like I was going to say like a shack mentality, and we want to move more into a mansion. But when I was sort of looking at what we actually need, I found it did spell out shack. So, and I have to double check myself, being dyslexic, that I've actually got that right. So I've sat with this for a little bit. But I think, you know, with a chronic illness, we need our own autonomy, but we need the needs are still the same as they were before, but actually I feel like our needs get even more hidden as we're trying to just function. But we all need to be seen. You know, we all, as we go into those health appointments or a social situation, we might not feel great, but actually we still need to be seen, and we all still need to be heard. You know, some people have never had this, you know, especially when I've gone into a prison and worked with the women, they haven't had this. And, you know, I can have them in tears just by reading this list. And, you know, being able to be accepted, and also in that, right in the middle there, accepting where we're at. And celebrating the good small wins, the small moments, you know, and the small wins, but also being celebrated for who we are still, despite a chronic illness. And in all of that, you know, being known, and that, you know, comes very much along with our friends and our family. And I just wanted to sort of just hold that just for a little bit, and just see if that resonates with anyone, because I just feel like the consequences of having a chronic illness, you know, can come with a load of emotions, and it affects our self-esteem and our confidence. You know, I can remember there was a period of time thinking, should I just give up the publishing? I don't think I ever really thought about giving up psychotherapy. Maybe I did, but I studied 5 years for that, and I think I thought I'm not, you know, I was hanging on for dear life. But with the publishing, it can be quite demanding to get to events, book events, meeting people. There's a lot of energy goes into it, and at times I just thought I can't give this anymore. I need to just sort of stay with my practice, psychotherapy practice, and take care of myself. And then I've got to get somewhere. I'd go to an event, and I would be so passionate about what was happening that I'd find the energy again. But I learned to space. I'd only like do one a month, and I started to get my confidence back, and started being able to talk about more what's going on as well. And I think not getting that awful FOMO where event would come up and I think, oh, I'm not going to make it, I'm not going to get there, why would I even bother? And actually I decided, even if I don't get there, I can still message after and see how it went, and I had to get over that as well. So there's many aspects to all of this, and I'm willing to hear anything that anyone wants to share about it, because, you know, it does affect our relationships, it does affect our community, connections, financially it can be very difficult. You know, I've been fortunate to be able to carry on, but I know others haven't and been left in debt. You know, it causes trauma. It can cause trauma, even just going to a health appointment. You know, I had one particular appointment that made me go, I'm not going to reach out for help again from a professional. Incidentally, I ended out under a new consultant, only because something was picked up from the gastroenterology department that were seeing me that then I needed to go and see another consultant who did know about Lyme. So accidentally, I've got more support now than I've ever had. But, you know, it can be quite traumatic, and the whole experience can be, and it can leave us stuck there and become part of our identity that is not seen, or not understood. So I think we do need humour to survive this. We really do. Being dyslexic, I've always been challenged in life, so I've always used humour sort of to get around things. And actually, I think the more you can have a little bit of a laugh, I think there's a physical reaction that happens when we have a bit of a laugh. And actually, I think it does help us get through the day. So do recommend that. And I think, you know, if we're looking at moving into a mindset where, you know, our needs are met, and we are feeling better about ourselves, then that, you know, that's a massive win. You know, that is like living in a mansion, because we're not limited. You know, we're not limited to space. We're not limited to what we can do. And it might be fleeting. You know, we might then get a flare up. But if we've journaled about it and how we felt about it, we know we'll get back there. And I think we have to have faith that we're gonna have better and good days. And it's managing the trickier ones. And maybe it is reaching out to somebody else on this group, or a friend or a relative who didn't have the blank look, you know, who got it, who gets us, who understands. And I don't think any of us are going to have a massive list of people with that, but actually if you got that one person, I think that makes a big difference. And it can be hard when we haven't. You know, it's partly why I do psychotherapy. You know, I am there for people, to be that person. And I even when I'm on holiday, I'll quite often say, look, if you're in a bad place, you know, please just message me. I still try to be available, because it's lonely, it can be hard, you know. And I have had moments where, admittedly, you know, is it worth carrying on, the suicidal thoughts, and I have many clients with that, but I think if we talk about it, it's suddenly not as it's not restricting. It doesn't keep us in that very narrow sort of shack mentality and mindset. It's like, just talk about it. What is it that we need right now? We need to be seen, we need to be heard, we need to be understood. And sometimes that's enough just to bring us out of that despairing moment. Yeah, so they're the books that I've written since having Lyme, so there's always hope. And then the next one, just my contact details. My story is my story, but actually it's about us being able to share. It's so important.
We hope to see you again. We do get some National Lottery funding for these sessions, so stay tuned for the next ones.